The scent of chocolate and pine and peppermint wafted through the air, warm, inviting, like blankets fresh out of the dryer or a nap after a long day. You rolled up your sleeves and stirred the pot on the stovetop, relishing in the heat that wafted up and warmed your face. Normally it'd be too much for you, considering that the oven was running as well, but today there was just the right kind of chill in the air. It kept the kitchen from becoming an inferno. Everything was just cozy. Shinso, it doesn't take that long to find a box. It had been at least 20 minutes since you'd sent Shinso to find the sweater you'd picked out for him. Conveniently, he'd forgotten to bring his own. Thankfully, knowing him, you'd had the sense to have one prepared, and this one was so much better than anything he'd ever pick out. When you only heard the sounds of shuffling in the room over, you scoffed and called out to him again. This time there was a groan, then the sound of footsteps tromping down the hallway. Shinso emerged, clutching a green bundle in his fist. He didn't say anything, just quirked up an eyebrow at you. "What?" you asked, trying to sound innocent. "I thought it was cute." A bold-faced lie. "Cute?" he repeated back. Then he flipped the sweater in his grip and began to read the knit lettering. "Where are my hose at? You think this?" He fiddled with a strand of lights dangling from the sleeve. "This thing is cute? Christmas was 6 days ago." "Shouldn't have forgotten yours then. Now stop complaining and put it on." There was a whole lot of sighing and eye-rolling that happened as he pulled the monstrosity over his head. You smiled a bit, feeling victorious. "Remember, you were the one that said you didn't want to go out tonight. This is called a compromise." The oven beeped at you and you squatted down to check on your cookies. "Be glad I'm busy or else I'd take pictures." Shinso scoffed and strutted into the kitchen with his hands in his pockets. He leaned back against the counter, watching as you pulled out the gingerbread. Even wearing that god-awful sweater, he looked like a friggin' model. An unkept, sleep-deprived model. It wasn't fair. You dropped the tray onto the granite with a tiny clang and turned to face him, holding out your arms expectantly. He smirked, pushing himself up and walking right into your embrace. You looped your arms around his neck and sighed when he pressed his face into your cheek. Goosebumps prickled up at the spots where his breath ghosted over your skin. There was no thinking in that moment, only calm and comfort, and him. Were it not for the gentle bubbling of the hot chocolate on the stove, it would have been easy to be lost there, utterly hypnotized and content to be so. Steadily, you tightened your grip on Shinso and slipped a hand beneath the neck of his sweater, searching. The lights on it blinked to life, accompanied by perhaps the hokiest version of "Here Comes Santa Claus" you've ever heard. He pulled back, peering down at the flashing lights strewn across his torso, then back up at you, looking positively irked. You patted his chest, then hurried over to your pot, stirring it before it began to boil. "Don't make that face, Shinso. Come over here and taste this." However upset he may have been, or he may have appeared, he didn't hesitate to take you up on your offer. He did, however, grab a cookie on the way over, seeming far too amused by the way you rolled your eyes, even as he had to juggle it between hands to avoid burning himself. You held up your ladle, and he leaned over the pot and took a tentative sip from it. "Hot," he breathed out, holding a hand beneath his chin to catch any drops that crawled down from it. "I know that, genius. How does it taste?" "Pretty good," he nodded, glancing at you out of the corner of his eye.
What box did you get this out of?
Ha ha, very funny. You gave his shoulder a light shove and reached over to turn off the heat. I'll have you know I made this myself.
Not sure I believe that. Not when you're the one that...
I swear, if you bring up the porridge one more time, I'll send you back out in the cold. He held his hands to his sides, smiling and backing away slowly. You grabbed a set of mugs when you heard the sliding glass door open, feeling an icy breeze creep into the kitchen. You turned and Shinso stood there in the dimly lit yard, each breath visible, a misty puff against the backdrop of night. What the hell was this man doing?
You have to admit, it takes real talent to make porridge slimy.
You didn't stop to consider the cold, just dropped your ladle and stomped towards him. He took a few steps back, further into the darkness, but if he thought that's enough to discourage you, then he was dead wrong. You proceeded, even as your socks grew heavy from the freezing, wet slush that covered the ground. Without thinking, you leaned over and scooped up a handful of the stuff, paying no heed when the cold seeped into your bare fingers. You lobbed it, and it missed its mark by a long shot. You were about to grab another one when Shinso, in the midst of making his retreat, slipped on an icy patch and fell flat on his back. He sat up quickly afterwards, but the pained look that crossed his face was enough to shake you from your playful attack. "Shinso!" you shouted, hurrying over to him. "You okay?" He grunted, leaning back on his hands and rolling his neck. You were about to insist the two of you hurry inside, that he relax on the couch and try not to move. But then, the bastard had the nerve to shove a pile of slush down the back of your shirt. "Asshole!" you hissed, along with a few other choice words, as your shoulders hunched up to your ears, instinctively trying to ward out the cold. Your fury was renewed. You shoved him down into the snow. It was already more of a puddle, and you began your assault anew, practically burying him in one handful after another of watery snowballs. You were both cackling to the point of breathlessness.
Hey!
He caught your wrist just as you were about to smash another one right into his chest. His cheeks were flushed, and you could feel the color in your own as well, a result of the cold and all of the laughter. He gestured down to his sweater.
You don't want me to short circuit now, do you?
You uncurled your fingers, letting a fistful of half-melted snow land on his shoulder. "Oops!" Satisfied with yourself, you pushed your body up and off of him, offering your hand. He took it and pulled himself onto his feet.
Thanks. You're so sweet.
"You started it," you retorted as you yanked off your socks and stepped into the house, rubbing your arms and trying to soak up whatever heat lingered from the oven and stovetop. "Tell me, was this part of some elaborate ploy to get out of wearing your holiday sweater? Because I spent forever picking that one out for you."
Damn, that would have been a great idea. I should have thought of that before.
He shut the door behind him and peeled the soaked wool from his skin. It hit the floor with a plopping sound. You knew Shinso was probably making a mental note to lose it later. "You'd have me believe that a genius like yourself didn't know he'd get his ass handed to him in a snowball fight?" Shinso shrugged.
You'd believe what you'd like to. I'm gonna use your shower.
He wrung out his shirt onto the kitchen sink, shooting you an accusatory look. More water than you thought possible came pouring out of the fabric.
It's only fair, considering you're the reason I'm about to freeze.
He started to leave the kitchen, then stopped and turned, leaning a shoulder on the doorframe.
You know, you'll never warm up when your clothes are drenched like that.
His eyes never left you. They dragged up the entire length of your frame, making you feel exposed despite the layers upon layers of lumpy clothing covering you.
Getting out of them would be a really good idea.
He just folded his arms, looking all too confident. You cocked your jaw to the side, trying to conceal the upward turn of your lips.
I just hate for you to get sick is all.
Thank God for staying home. And snow. And smartasses that hate god-awful sweaters.